Am I the asshole for moving in and screwing up the neighborhood by fencing and closing my property? This started over the summer and is continuing, so I'm sourcing some insight. I don't need legal advice. I have an attorney. I purchased an estate property. By the time the owners passed, they hadn't lived on site for almost a decade. The property is wooded, with lake access from the back of the lot, and was overgrown. Because of the woods and the distance between lots, I didn't expect to see my neighbors. But at first, I had people stopping by telling me how great it was. I was cleaning up and renovating the property. I work from home, so it was nice to meet the people living nearby. All was fine until the last steps, pouring a concrete pad for my van and finishing the fencing. I hadn't moved in yet, but once the extra driveway and pad were added, I parked my van. When I returned for the final move-in, there was a massive gouge down the length of it, as if someone had squeezed another vehicle by or dragged something else large by it. Anyway, I moved myself and my dog in, and because of the dog and the incident with the van, I closed my gates. In doing so, I closed access to the lake through my property. I learned immediately the neighbors have been using my driveway to get to the water for a while, as the old owners were either never here or didn't care. I started getting notes and knocks on the door about the problem I caused. I don't mind the occasional neighborhood kid knocking, but this was non-stop, 3 to 4 groups a day, and they were not always polite. I was asked to move my van and vehicles so people could back boats down the drive. I'm now assuming that's how my van got gouged. I explained the dog and reasons for having a fence, but have been met with criticism that I'm changing how things have always worked around here. Last straw was people opening the gate on their own and then getting upset. My dog was loose. I acted by putting up a no trespassing sign, a sign indicating a dog on site, cameras, locks, and an intercom by my door, so when people ring, I can tell them I'm working and not have to come down to the door. Even though the summer season is over, I'm still getting notes and voicemails telling me that access to the lake is grandfathered in, as the previous owners allowed it and it's been going on forever. These are coming from 2 houses, a woman in her 50s and a couple about the same age, who claim they represent the Homeowners Association. Although when I purchased, there wasn't a single thing about neighborhood covenants or an actual organized homeowners association. Sometimes the communication takes on a more formal approach. Other times it's informing me how bad of a person I am for ruining the neighborhood. My attorney assures me this neighbor-proclaimed easement is absolutely not a thing. He's done the legwork. But these are people I'll presumably be living nearby for a long time, and I'd prefer to be cordial. Am I the asshole for changing up the neighborhood vibe? Edited to add, I absolutely know I'm in the legal right. This is not that, rather an ask from a personal AH perspective. Not the asshole. The property is wooded with lake access from the back of the lot. I have a hard time believing your property is the only access to an entire lake. Surely you haven't bought the whole area, but good for you if you did, and there are other ways to enjoy a day at the lake. They're not owed access to your property, as your lawyer pointed out, and the entitlement they demonstrated, damaging your car, blaming your dog, and so on, makes them very much the AH. I acted by putting up a no trespassing sign, a sign indicating a dog on site, cameras, locks, and an intercom by my door, so when people ring, I can tell them I'm working and not have to come down to the door. Well, that escalated quickly. It's definitely not the only access. There's a public park and boat launch a few miles down the road. It didn't escalate too quickly. The fence and the gate and some of the cameras were already there. I just locked the gate, added to the number of cameras, and posted signage. Not the asshole. My attorney assures me that this neighbor-proclaimed easement is absolutely not a thing. He's done the legwork. Forget trespassing. I parked my van. When I returned for the final move-in, there was a massive gouge down the length of it, as if someone had squeezed another vehicle by or dragged something else large by it. These are not people worth being given an inch of goodwill. Not the asshole. You didn't ruin the vibe of the neighborhood. Fortunately, the vibe was created by entitled a-holes, and it was ripe for the ruining. Ha ha ha, that made me laugh a little. Not the asshole. You might consider putting up a sign that says private property, no lake access. I've put up some private drive signs and signs pointing out that there's a dog inside the fence. Turn it around. Next time someone complains, show them the damage. Tell them the person who did this and didn't even have the courtesy to tell you, never mind pay for repairs, is the reason you shut your gate. Tell them to figure out who is the coward and take it up with them. This situation is quite interesting because it involves property rights and neighborhood dynamics. The author seems to be facing a lot of pushback from their new neighbors for closing off their property and preventing access to the lake, even though they believe they are within their legal rights to do so. It's a complex situation involving legal, social, and personal aspects. Wow, the audacity of the neighbors to use the author's driveway for access to the lake without permission is shocking. It's understandable that the author would feel the need to protect their property and ensure their safety and privacy by putting up gates and security measures. It's unfortunate that the situation has escalated to the point where the author is receiving negative feedback from the neighbors. How do you think the author can handle this delicate situation with their neighbors without compromising their rights as a property owner? Do you think there is any way for the author to find a compromise that works for both parties involved? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. Am I the asshole for not giving my house to my sister-in-law? I, 23 female, have 2 siblings, both older. My oldest, let's call him Jeff, 28 male, passed away 4 months ago. He had been in a relationship with Sarah for the past 4 years, and they were planning on getting married this summer, but he got in a car crash and died. He and Sarah also had 2 kids. So 2 years ago, my grandma passed away and gave me her house. I don't have a family, but I am planning on getting a good career first. The other day, Sarah came to my house. We have never been very close, but I understand that she's in a vulnerable position, so I was trying to be as supportive as I could. Then she told me that she has been depressed and that she thinks her boss is going to fire her soon. I told her that I'm here for anything she needs, and that's when she asked me for my house. I immediately told her no way, and she started an argument about how I don't have a family, and she does, and that it would be so much easier for her to grieve in a house that has no mortgage. I told her to get out and that I will not be giving her my house. I also agreed to a coffee later today, so there will be an update soon. Not the asshole. While you can sympathize with her situation, you are under no obligation to give her anything. Not money, and certainly not your house. She'll have to get another job. Oh, and be careful that she doesn't abandon her kids on your doorstep. Also, if she's in the US, she may be entitled to Social Security for the kids to help with expenses. NA. But why are you having coffee with her? She is just going to view this as further encouragement for her frankly outrageous request. Don't even let her move in. You will never get her out. It's okay to have coffee with Sarah. She is reeling and feeling desperate. Please be kind but firm. If she asks again, don't tell her to get out. Just reiterate that, of course, you're not going to give up your home. Don't offer her to stay with you for any amount of time. Other comments are correct. She'll never leave. Do offer to visit your little siblings, to take them out, to bring over a meal you can all enjoy together, to have coffee again, to let her express herself. Not the asshole. Easier to grieve in a house without a mortgage. My arse. Do not give her a chance to move in. You will never get her out. To be fair, it would be easier to do a lot of things in a house without a mortgage. Not the asshole. I can't imagine being so brazen as to ask someone you're not even related or close to for their house. This situation is definitely interesting. It's quite a complex and emotional family dynamic, and it's intriguing to see how different people are reacting to the sister-in-law's request. I can imagine the tension and conflicted emotions involved in this situation, and it's definitely something that could stir up a lot of opinions. Wow, this story is wild. Can you believe the nerve of Sarah to ask for her deceased partner's sister's house? I can't imagine being in her position and then having to deal with Sarah's outrageous request. It's understandable that she's grieving and desperate, but asking for someone else's home is completely out of line. I'm curious to know how the upcoming coffee meeting with Sarah went and whether there was any resolution or further conflict. Have you ever encountered a situation where someone made an inappropriate request in a time of grief or desperation? How did you handle it, and what advice would you offer in this kind of delicate and emotionally charged scenario? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. Am I the asshole for not allowing my stepdaughter to have a bedroom all for herself? I was previously married and have a 12-year-old daughter, as does my current husband, who was also previously married and has a 22-year-old daughter. The house we currently live in has 2 bedrooms, one for me and my husband, and the other for my 12-year-old daughter. My stepdaughter moved out before I married her dad. We are planning on getting a bigger house and are in the process of owning one, but it might not happen until December, so we still have about a year until that happens. As I said, my stepdaughter lives on her own and works, let's call her Dana. Dana recently got fired from her job and was unable to pay rent for her own place. She asked if she could move in with us, and we agreed. However, problems started when she learned that she would have to share a room with her younger sister, who's 12. She said she can't handle that and wants her full privacy. I told her I understand the complications of the situation, but I can't have my daughter move out of the room. We have an extra fold bed that we open at night in the living room, just in case someone sleeps over. Dana suggested we could have her sleep on that bed, but I pointed out that it's not enough space and she needs her own area, especially for her wardrobe. She also had a problem with the fact that my daughter wouldn't remove her clothes from the wardrobe. I told Dana I can get her an extra wardrobe, even if it's not as big as the current one, and that she could have 2 if needed. She suggested my daughter should move her stuff in those wardrobe and leave the main one for her, but I refused. Overall, she is not compromising at all and is making unreasonable demands. My husband asked me if we could move the folded bed into our room, but I told him we don't have space. He then suggested what Dana said, for her to sleep in the living room, and I refused again. I told my husband that I can't have my daughter's life disrupted because Dana wants privacy. Sharing a room would be hard on my daughter, as it would be for Dana. So either all of us compromise or Dana finds another solution. I find it very selfish that she wants a teenager to change just so she can be comfortable. Dana is able to search for other options and is not forced to share a room, but my daughter will end up being forced to share a room if Dana comes. Not the asshole. She is a grown woman who fell on hard times. She does not get to inconvenience everyone in the household simply because she wants her privacy. At 12 years old, privacy is so important, and she needs to know that you are on her side as well. This is coming from someone who had to move in with their grandparents, again at age 22, after I fell on hard times. I slept on the couch in the living room. Just more incentive to get out of there, lol. You don't want to make it too comfortable for her, or she will not want to make the necessary moves to get back in her own place. I know how hard it is, but I also know that moving back in with my grandparents was an inconvenience on them. Not the asshole. Your child is dealing with schoolwork, almost a teenager, and needs a quiet, calm place to relax and study when she comes in. Dana is an adult and should be grateful for the couch. Dana isn't in any position to be demanding the entire household change to suit her. She should be grateful she has a place to go and isn't living in her car, not trying to push a minor out of her own bedroom so she can have her privacy. You get that kind of thing in your own home when you pay your own way. She got herself fired, which says a lot about her entitlement, and she can either accept the concessions you're very gracefully making for her or live elsewhere. She's 22. Time to get her act together. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, but what time does your 12-year-old go to bed? If you have her sleep in the living room, everyone will have to go to their rooms when she goes to sleep. Also, the kitchen might have to be off limits too, so no one wakes her up. The 12-year-old depends on adults for shelter. The 22-year-old got fired, her fault, as an adult. The 22-year-old should be grateful you are willing to put a roof over her head. She shouldn't be so demanding. Plus, what she is expecting is telling. I doubt she has any intention of going back to work soon, or if she does, getting a full-time job. YWBTA if you don't stand up for your 12-year-old daughter. She absolutely needs her own space and shouldn't be made to feel second to the adult who can't support herself. I strongly suggest that the adult sleeps in the living room until she can find her own space. If the 12-year-old's room is big enough for 2 beds, wardrobes, maybe a partition, then that's fine. But the literal child needs to be a priority. Big red flag that your husband is suggesting a child sleeps in the living room instead of having a bedroom. Literal minimum of parenting is being tested here. Not the asshole. You literally do not have other options. Your daughter should not have to upend her life, and your stepdaughter is an adult. Not the asshole. The room Dana wants belongs to someone else. She's not entitled to it just because she wants it. If she wants privacy, she'll have to prioritize getting another job so she can afford to live on her own again. You're right to not tolerate her expecting that you'll flip your daughter's life around just because Dana wants it. This situation is definitely interesting, but also a bit frustrating. It's clear that there are some serious space limitations in the current living situation, and everyone involved is feeling the effects. It's understandable that the stepdaughter would want her own privacy and space, but it's also completely reasonable for the 12-year-old to have her own room. It's a difficult situation all around. I can't believe Dana is making such unreasonable demands. It's not fair to ask a child to give up her space when she has no control over the situation. Dana needs to understand that she's not the only one affected by this living arrangement. Has there been any progress in finding a new living situation or a compromise? It's such a tough spot to be in. Well, that's another episode of Am I the Asshole in the Books? I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.